What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Du Plessis reveals what's next after Israel Adesanya fight. Dricus du Plessis has to get by Israel Adesanya first, but if the middleweight champion hears and still at UFC 305, he's not expecting to rematch Sean Strickland next. DDP is preparing to battle his rival Israel Adesanya in Australia, which will mark the first time he's fought since he defeated Strickland in January to take the middleweight throne. Since that fight, Strickland has repeatedly said he should be next for a title shot, and he's doubled down on that proclamation following his victory over Paulo Costa in June. Well, ahead of UFC 305, Du Plessis spoke with Shaq Fu MMA, and while discussing what could come up next, DDP said he's certain the winner of the upcoming Robert Whittaker-Khamzat Chimaev fight will get tapped for a title shot.
Whittaker does have the 2 wins. Strickland shouldn't have been there in the first place. He got it by default and then proved that he deserves to be there. So that's amazing. The winner of Khamzat and Whittaker is going to get the title shots. That's going to happen. Strickland says he's going to wait until he gets the title shot. He's going to wait for quite a while, in my opinion. If Whittaker beats Khamzat, 3-5 wins, he's 100% getting a title shot. The UFC has been wanting to give Khamzat a title shot since his debut. Maybe if it's a draw, Khamzat will still get the title shot, in my opinion. Yeah, let's see if he makes it to the fight. And more deserving, I mean, both of them making a case. Whittaker, being more active, getting those wins, and Strickland, when we fought, it was a close fight, a hard contested close fight. So, both of them making a case. But like I said, for me, it's about the fight the fans want to see. Which one's going to be the biggest fight? Which fight is the one that the fans think is going to be the best fight?
Strickland's coach, Eric Nixick, however, sees it differently. While talking to MMA Fighting recently, Nixick outlined why he believes Strickland should and will face the winner of DDP versus Adesanya.
In my mind, he's never really lost the belt. It was such a close fight against Dricus. He dominated Izzy. I think if Izzy wins that fight, that's an easy rematch. Izzy's going to want to try to get that revenge. And if Dricus wins, I think that you put that to rest and give Sean the opportunity to avenge that loss.
You can understand why Strickland and his supporters feel he should be tapped for another shot at the middleweight crown. Whittaker has already lost twice to Adesanya, and he was also taken out by Du Plessis. Chimaev, meanwhile, has fought just once since 2022 and has yet to defeat a middleweight contender in the UFC. But if either Bobby Knuckles or Boers have an emphatic victory at UFC 308, there's a very good chance Strickland will remain on the shelf. Up next, Islam Makhachev wants to see Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. It seems like a day doesn't go by without someone calling for Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall to fight, and one of the latest people to do so is UFC lightweight king Islam Makhachev. Although Aspinall is the interim heavyweight champ, and despite the fact he's defended the interim title, all the current signs point to Jones fighting Stipe Miocic next. As noted, that hasn't stopped the MMA world from talking about how a Jones-Aspinall fight would look. Far from it. Well, recently, Makhachev spoke with Hoshe MMA, and while discussing Aspinall and what he's done to date, Islam made it clear he wants to see the rising star fight for the undisputed belt.
I want Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones.
You want Tom Aspinall?
Yeah.
Why?
Because this guy have internal title. He defends the title. He don't have the real one, He have to fight for the real one. Tom Aspinall very deserved, What he did with the last opponent. He just spent 2 minutes for 2 guys.
And we don't know what he's like on the ground yet, right?
I know Tom Aspinall very good, still young, very hungry. I know this guy is one of the dangerous guy in the world right now.
You can't take issue with anything Makhachev said there. There's no question Aspinall deserves to fight for the undisputed title, but what remains to be seen is who he faces for that belt. Jones continues to tease that his fighting days are coming to a close, and likewise for Miocic. What do you think? If Bones defends the heavyweight belt against Stipe, will he hang around to fight Aspinall? Now let's take a look at Michael Chandler fires back at Conor McGregor. Although it's been nearly 2 years now and Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler have yet to fight, the latter's still driving hard to make the bout a reality. After months and months of speculation as to whether McGregor and Chandler were actually going to fight, the two were booked to scrap at UFC 303, but as you surely know, Conor broke his pinky toe, and the fight didn't go down. Since then, there's been talk the two might fight in December, but on account of videos showing McGregor pounding beers rather than sparring opponents, not everyone believes we'll see him fight again. Well, amidst all this renewed speculation about Conor's future, the polarizing star shared a video of him on what looks like his yacht. The grinning McGregor eventually donned a champ hat. The clip prompted quite the fiery response from Chandler. Can't wait to bounce your champ head off the canvas, Conor McGregor. Get your ish together so I can. You can understand why Chandler is so frustrated. He's been trying to throw hands with McGregor since the beginning of 2023. But what do you think of Conor's video? At this juncture, just seeing the dude actually step into the octagon would be earth-shattering. Never mind fighting for another belt. Merab Dvalishvili reacts to Umar Nurmagomedov fight. Umar Nurmagomedov has leapt to the top of the UFC's bantamweight rankings on account of his victory over Corey Sandhagen. And the undefeated fighter has said he's been told by the UFC he's fighting for the belt next. But the man who will challenge champ Sean O'Malley first, Merab Dvalishvili, thinks Deiveson Figueiredo is more deserving of a title shot. Umar faced Sandhagen at UFC Abu Dhabi on August 3rd. And recorded a decision victory over the longtime contender. Prior to the event, Nurmagomedov was ranked number 10 in the division, but due to that win, he's now sitting in the number 2 spot. Well, recently, Dvalishvili spoke with Helen Yee, and when he was asked to weigh in on Umar's recent win, the cardio machine argued Nurmagomedov had been granted a huge favor by getting booked to fight Sandhagen. In addition, he outlined why he believes Figueiredo should get a shot at the belt.
So now, Umar win his fight and good for him. I wanna focus for O'Malley's fight first. I have this big fight coming up, and after this, wherever UFC decide will be next for title shot, I will fight next. I think Figueiredo deserved more because he beat a former champion and he beat Chito. He dominated Chito again. And Figueiredo, he has a big name. He's former champion.
It's an interesting take by Merab. The God of War did put away the former champ Cody Garbrandt before he defeated Chito. Further, he also recorded a decision victory over Rob Font, another top 15 ranked bantamweight. But not only is Umar undefeated, let's face it, being part of the legendary Nurmagomedov family doesn't hurt when it comes to promoting fights. UFC Updates. Let's take a look at some of the work the UFC matchmakers have been doing. Recently, it was reported by MMA Mania's Alex Behunin that the UFC is planning to have Dominic Reyes and Anthony Smith throw down at UFC 310. It's a compelling and pivotal light heavyweight fight, as Reyes may have stopped the UFC from giving him his walking papers in June by taking out Dustin Jacoby. That win snapped a 4-fight losing streak for Reyes, which dates back to his controversial loss to John Jones. Smith, meanwhile, is coming off a decision loss to Roman Dolidze. So given that Lionheart is now 36, he needs a victory to remain ranked in the top 15. It's also being reported that the UFC has booked a heavyweight scrap between Derek Lewis and Alexander Romanov for November 2nd. It's a key fight for Romanov, as well as a ridiculously dangerous one given the opponent, as he's dropped 3 of his last 4 fights. And the UFC's 100th Fight Night card in Vegas has a new bantamweight fight, as it's being reported that Melissa Mullins will battle Montserrat Rendon at the November 9th card. Now let's get to Coach on Khabib's involvement with Belal Muhammad fight. Following Belal Muhammad's wrestling clinic at UFC 304, there's been plenty of talk about how Khabib Nurmagomedov played a role in the championship victory. But recently, renowned coach Javier Mendez explained why that narrative's misguided. Belal ended the reign of Leon Edwards at the recent event by out-wrestling and out-grappling the now former champ. Since Belal in the past has acknowledged that training with Team Khabib has helped him raise his game, a lot of folks have cited the legend as a key factor in the win. After all, Edwards was largely able to shut down the wrestling of both Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman. But while speaking with Submission Radio recently, Mendez outlined why people need to rethink that view.
A lot of people, alluded to the fact that it was because of Khabib. Well, what about his coaches? What about Lou? What about his other coach, Mike Valley? What about them? I mean, they were with him through this whole time. So to me, it isn't anything but other than what they did as coaching staff. Because Khabib only put maybe a week, 2 weeks to help him on this one, and the rest he spent with his coaches. So to me, I don't like the narrative when they make it look like Khabib made the big difference when, he helped them, but his coaches made the difference, and
it's certainly true that Belal's entire team and corner deserve a ton of credit for what he's accomplished. After all, we're talking about a guy who hasn't lost a fight since 2019, and since then, he's defeated many top-tier welterweights. That didn't happen by accident. Now, does that mean that training with Khabib and his team of smashing machines also didn't help? Of course not. TJ Dillashaw fires back at Anthony Smith for cheating comments. TJ Dillashaw has made plenty of headlines in the past for his epic feuds with the likes of Uriah Faber, Cody Garbrandt, and Henry Cejudo, among others. But chances are, not too many people predicted he'd get into it with Anthony Smith. Their issues apparently kicked off after Dillashaw argued that Smith had given up in fights, and that further, he wasn't championship material. That didn't sit well with Lionheart, who angrily referenced Dillashaw's well-documented flag and ban for PED use. Well, more recently, Dillashaw was a guest on the Jackson podcast, and he essentially accused Smith of being too sensitive.
Bro, you guys asked me a question if I thought he was going to be a champion. I said no. And then you're like, why not? It's like, he gives up. Like, he doesn't have that fight. He doesn't have that dog in him. I mean, but dude, the guy's got to sit there and be like, why are you going to have such, wear your feelings on your sleeve? I mean, he sits there and talks on people on broadcast all the time. I'm no stranger to it. He says about me. It's like, whatever, dude. It's like, that's just how I feel. And if you don't like it, if the truth hurts, too bad.
Right. Chances are no fighters want to hear that they're quitters or that they don't have that dog in them. But what do you think? Did Smith go overboard with his fiery response, or was it warranted? Dana White reveals bad news about the UFC Apex. According to reports, the UFC Apex will be closing for renovations and construction in November and won't reopen until the summer of 2025. The UFC will have to find a new venue to host fight nights, and Dana mentioned traveling to new cities, so this is probably what will happen next. Alex Pereira's accuser's best friend Jessie has broken her silence on the allegations against Alex. A video is circulating online of Jessie addressing the situation. Here's what she had to say.
I was no way I sayed it all, and me and the other guy are just friends, and nothing about that has changed or will change. I want that to be known. I didn't do anything with anyone that night, and I will never have OnlyFans.
Top comments. The only logical thing to do is make Aspinall, Jones, Stipe three-way ladder match. Jones will never fight Aspinall. If they do, it'll be a Conor Chandler card, if you catch my drift. Reyes won. F. Rogaine. Rodtang had 300-ish bouts. How come he's okay and Vera didn't recover in 6 effing months? Bogus. Jones, the GOAT of ducking actual competition.